Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all well, and thank you for attending today's webinar. My name is Rabnott, and I, with Matt Goodman, are the Sophos product managers at Bluechip. Today, we do have a special guest from Sophos, Geoff Morrison, who will be presenting on Sophos' MTR products and why there is a need for threat intelligence, threat hunting, incident analysis, and response. Before we start, though, let's run through a few housekeeping items. Geoff, if you can just put the housekeeping slide on, we can. So today's webinar will run for an hour, including the Q&A session. All dial-in participants will be muted, but questions can be submitted via the GoToWebinar question box, and these will be answered in the Q&A session. This session will be recorded and made available to the participants via email within the next 48 hours. As advertised, there is Uber lunch, and lunch is on us today. The first 40 participants who registered and joined today's webinar will be rewarded with a $25 Uber Eats voucher. These vouchers will be sent to participants' registered email addresses by the end of the webinar today. So I'm now going to pass you on to Geoff, and I hope you enjoy today's session.
Cool. Thanks very much, Noel. And thanks everyone for having me today and joining the Bluechip and Sophos webinar. It's great to see a lot of familiar names and some new names on the attendee list as well today. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the challenge with cybersecurity. What is EDR and XDR, and we're going to jump into a live demo there. How MSPs can leverage MTR and Rapid Response. And we do have a quiz as well, so make sure you pay attention, as I believe there's a prize to give away at the end of the webinar as well. And then we're going to open up the floor for any Q&A that anyone's got. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, make sure that you throw them straight into that question box so you don't forget them, and I'll get to them at the end of the webinar as well. So let's jump in. Now, before we dive too far into today's session, it's important to acknowledge why that we're here. The reality is that most organizations have a 1 in 2 chance of falling victim to a major cyber attack. Sophos recently commissioned an independent vendor agnostic survey of 5,000 IT managers across 26 countries, which revealed a staggering 51% of respondents had been hit by ransomware in the last year. Furthermore, in almost 3/4 of these cases, criminals succeeded in encrypting their data. Knowing how to respond if the attackers do get you in their sights is essential for minimizing the impact of such attack. So we're going to start by looking at 4 common mistakes people make when dealing with a cybersecurity incident. Of course, experiencing a critical cyber incident is incredibly stressful and intense time. While nothing can fully alleviate the pressure of dealing with an attack, understanding these 4 lessons will give your team and maybe even your customer's team some advantages when defending the organization. The advice I'm going to share here is based on real-world experience of our Sophos Managed Threat Response and our Sophos Rapid Response teams, who have collectively responded to thousands of cybersecurity incidents on behalf of our customers. The first mistake is waiting too long to react when you're under an attack. Every second matters. There are a few reasons why teams may take too long to react, and the most common is that they don't understand the severity of the situations that they find themselves in, and that a lack of contextual awareness leads to a lack of urgency. Attacks tend to hit at the most inopportune times: holidays, weekends, and in the middle of the night. Since most incident response teams are significantly understaffed, this can understandably lead to, we'll get to that tomorrow attitude. But unfortunately, tomorrow it may be too late to do something to minimize the impact of that attack. Overwhelmed teams are more likely to react slowly to indicators of attack because they suffer from what's called alert fatigue, which means signals get lost in the noise. Even when a case is initially opened, it may not be correctly prioritized due to a lack of visibility and context. This costs time, and time is not on the defender's side when it comes to incident response. Even in situations where the security team is aware that they're under attack and something needs to be done immediately, they may not have the experience to know what to do next. which also makes them slow to respond. The best way to combat this is by planning for incidents in advance. When it comes to incident response, it's not enough to only treat the symptoms. It's important to treat the disease as well. That's why the second common mistake is declaring mission accomplished too soon. When a threat is detected, the first thing to do is triage the immediate attack. This could mean cleaning up a ransomware executable, or a banking Trojan, or blocking the exfiltration of data. However, often teams will stop the initial attack, but not realize they haven't really solved the root cause. Successfully removing malware and clearing an alert doesn't mean the attacker has been ejected from the environment. It is also possible that what was detected was only a test run by the attacker to see what defenses that they're up against. If the attacker still has access, they'll likely strike again, but more destructively. Incident response teams need to ensure that they address the root cause of the original incident that they've mitigated. Does the attacker still have a foothold in the environment? Are they planning to launch a second wave? Incident response operators who have remediated thousands of attacks know when and where to investigate deeper. They look for anything else attackers are doing, have done, might be planning to do in the network, and neutralize that as well. Now, I'd like to walk you through a recent example where declaring victory too soon would have been a disaster. In this case, the Sophos Rapid Response team, which is our incident response specialists, were able to thwart an attack that lasted 9 days and saw 3 separate attempts by the attackers to hit an organization with ransomware. Now, there's a lot of detail here, so let me summarize while you take a moment to read this. In the first wave of the attack, which was ultimately blocked by the organization's endpoint protection, attackers targeted 700 computers with Maze ransomware and were making a ransom demand of US $15 million. Realizing that they were under attack, the target security team engaged the advanced incident response skills of the Sophos Rapid Response team, who are part of our Managed Threat Response, or MTR, organization. Rapid Response is an emergency IR, incident response service, for organizations who have not yet signed up for our MTR. The incident response specialists quickly identified the compromised admin account, identified and removed several malicious files, and blocked attacker commands and control, or also referred to as C2, communications. The Sophos team was then able to defend against 2 additional waves of attacks by the adversary. If the attackers had succeeded and the victim had paid, this could have been one of the most expensive ransomware payments to date. Now, gone are the days, in my opinion, the drive-by shooting style of ransomware and network security attacks, right? These people are making targeted attacks on organizations. They know that, they know when they're working by looking at day 4 to 5 here. They're looking at where the organization sits, what country, what time zone, when they should launch their attack. If we jump over to day 9, they have realized that this company, wow, they've actually got some endpoint protection. We've been kicked out, but we haven't been completely kicked out of the organization yet. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to launch our own virtual machine on the customer's hypervisor to try get around the attack or the protection mechanisms there. As soon as we detected that C2, we were then able to trace it back to the newly added virtual machine. We deleted the machine, cleaned up the attack as well. And they really just couldn't get anywhere. 3, the third most common error that we see is relying on incomplete visibility when navigating an attack. Nothing makes defending an organization more difficult than flying blind. It's important to have access to the right high-quality data, which makes it possible to accurately identify potential indicators of attack and determine the root cause. Effective teams collect the right data to see signals, can separate the signals from the noise, and know which signals are the most important to prioritize. Collecting signals. Limited visibility into an environment is a surefire way to miss attacks. Over the years, many big data tools have been brought to the market to try and solve this specific challenge. Some rely on event-centric data, like log events. Others utilize threat-centric data, and others rely on a hybrid approach. Collecting the right high-quality data from a wide variety of sources ensures complete visibility into an attacker's tools, tactics, and procedures, or TTPs. Otherwise, it is likely only a portion of the attack will be seen. Either way, the goal is the same. Collect enough data to generate meaningful insights for investigating and responding to the attacks that would otherwise be missed. However, fearing they won't have the data they need to get the full picture of an attack, some organizations and the security tools that they rely on collect everything. And by doing this, they're not making it easier to find a needle in the haystack. They're making it harder by piling on more hay than what's necessary. This not only adds to the cost of data collection and storage, but it also creates a lot of noise, which leads to alert fatigue and time wasted chasing false positives. There's a saying among threat detection and response professionals that content is king, but context is queen. Both are necessary to run an effective incident response program, applying meaningful metadata associated to signals, which allows analysts to determine if such signals are malicious or benign. One of the most critical components of effective threat detection and response is prioritizing the signals that matter the most. The best way to pinpoint the alerts that matter the most is with a combination of context provided by security tools, i.e. endpoint detection and response, artificial intelligence, threat intelligence, and the knowledge base of the human operator. Context helps pinpoint where signals are originated, the current stage of an attack, the related events, and the potential impact to businesses. Now, just for anyone that noticed that my webcam has dropped off, the system was telling me that some participants couldn't see myself and the content, so I've decided to remove myself rather than the content that was displayed. The fourth common mistake that many organizations make is assuming they can handle the incident on their own. No organization wants to deal with breach attempts. However, there is no substitute for experience when it comes to responding to incidents. This means that the IT and security teams are often tasked with high-pressure incident response, are thrown in situations that they simply don't have the skills to deal with, situations that often have a massive impact on the business. The lack of skilled resources to investigate and respond to incidents is one of the biggest problems facing the cybersecurity industry today. The problem is so widespread that according to ESG research, 34% say their biggest challenge is that they lack skilled resources to investigate a cybersecurity incident involving an endpoint to determine root cause and the attack chain. As a result, organizations are increasingly seeking to outsource some or all of their security efforts, specifically managed detection and response, or MDR services. MDR services are outsourced security operations delivered by a team of specialists and act as an extension of the customer's security team. These services combine human-led investigations, threat hunting, real-time monitoring, and incident response with a technology stack to gather and analyze intelligence. According to Gartner, by 2025, 50% of organizations will be using MDR services, showing a trend that organizations are realizing they will need help to run a complete security operations and incident response program. For organizations that have not employed an MDR service and are responding to an active attack, incident response specialists are an excellent option. Incident responders are brought in when the security team is overwhelmed and needs an outside expert to triage the attack and ensure the adversary has been neutralized. Even organizations that have teams of skilled security analysts can benefit from collaborating with an incident response service to shore up gaps in coverage. Example, nights, weekends, holidays, and specialized roles that are needed when responding to incidents. We'll expand on the MDR services that Sophos are able to provide a little later on in the presentation. Now, I'd like to share with you another Sophos MTR casebook to demonstrate the value of being able to call on incident response experts when needed. In this example, a customer got in touch to say that a vendor they worked with had been hit by ransomware and that they were worried they might also be infected. The Sophos MTR team started investigating immediately, working with our experts in Sophos labs. They quickly realized that there was no evidence of ransomware. At this point, some teams might have closed the case and moved on to other work. However, the Sophos MTR team continued investigating and uncovered a historic banking Trojan. Within 2 hours and 6 minutes, the whole incident had been investigated and cleaned up. For a more in-depth look into both of these case studies, visit news.sophos.com or search for MTR Casebook. So to summarize, and in order to facilitate an effective response to potential cybersecurity incidents, we recommend that you react as quickly as possible when your organization or your customer's organization is under an attack. Every second matters. Put in measures within the help desk in your MSP to make sure that if people are calling through with an active attack in their environment or saying something's not right, that the help desk team prioritize that call and pass it straight on to an engineer, available or not, make them available to take the call. Don't declare mission accomplished too soon. Sometimes attacks come in waves. It doesn't always end after the first attack is stopped. Ensure that you've got complete visibility. Having the right high quality data will make it possible to accurately identify potential indicators of attack and determine root causes. And accept that it's okay to ask for help. All of us on this call today are experts in what we do. We can't be experts in everything that comes across our desks. It's okay to ask for help and leverage the right people to respond to these security incidents. Now, how can we help? All right, so I've told you the problem, made it all sound doom and gloom and really scary, but it doesn't need to be that way. We can definitely help out with the market gaps and the problems that we're seeing in the industry. We've got our protection, our visibility, and our expertise. That's the new way I'd like you to think about Sophos products. We've got our protection with Intercept X, giving you the world's best endpoint protection, maybe a biased view. We've got the visibility with our EDR, so endpoint detection and response, for security analysts, IT administrators, and anyone in between. And then we've got the expertise, leveraging our Sophos Managed Threat Response, 24/7, 365 proactive service. What is this EDR that you speak of, Geoff? It essentially gives you the ability to ask, answer, and respond really fast. With our live discover, which comes with EDR, and I'll jump in and show you this in my console in a second, essentially gives us search capabilities from within the endpoint. We've got pre-written and customizable SQL queries, and we can do up to 90 days on disk live and historic data. Once we've found a problem or found something that we want to investigate further, we've then got our live response. We can remotely remediate managed devices all through Sophos Central. We've got powerful command line interfaces, and audit logs and MFA are included. As soon as you jump onto that live console and live response, everything from there on is audited. You can see who decided to shut down the CEO's machine, or who launched into PowerShell and then started to do some malicious activity as well. So let's take a break from the slides. Let's move over to my Sophos Central. I'll just wait for that to update on everyone's screen there. So hopefully everyone's familiar with Sophos Central. If you're not familiar, this is where you manage all of our Sophos products from. You can see here on the left-hand side, I'm fortunate enough to have all of the products: protection, mobile, encryption, wireless, email gateways, firewall management, phish threat, and even cloud optics, which is our user education and awareness tool, right? But if you don't have all those products shown in your Central, by all means, jump down and go to free trials at any point in time. Get yourself set up on a trial for one of the products. But let's focus on what we're here to talk about today, right, Geoff? Let's have a look at our threat analysis center. So really starting to show the visibility tools and what I was talking about there in the slides. So we've got our dashboard showing us what's being generated and what's being picked up on our endpoints. And, you know, there's some pretty interesting stuff here that we can investigate. So, you know, if we jump in and have a look at these, and I highly recommend that you're checking this regularly for your customers and even your own environment to see what your own team's been up to. At a nice high level here at the top, we can see essentially the nice little picture, right? Showing us where it started, what happened, what it tried to do, when it was cleaned up, and when it was detected and cleaned as well. If we move down here to the detection name, and if you click on any of this writing in blue, it'll take you to a new page. With the detection name piece, this will then take me to a Sophos KB article to explain what the detection is. Now, what I really like about having the visibility piece of the EDR license, it shows me that there was 11 business files involved in this attack. Now, why I'm pointing this out is because I actually think it's really important that we go and investigate these business files, because if this was happening on, I don't know, Joel's machine, Joel works in payroll, and Joel happens to have a Excel document on his desktop with everyone's payroll details in. Naughty Joel for starters. But if this attack was on there, and although we've detected and cleaned it, this actually still shows you what business files are involved. So you can see if there was any risk of that payroll file and, you know, everyone's personal information getting leaked or breached or anything like that, or even accessed, right? Also gives you some guided incident response. So we can show you, we're recommending here that we investigate the 6 processes that are being marked with uncertain reputation. And we can also see the graph here for below details. While you investigate it, you can actually isolate the device from the network if you do think it's still at risk. This will enact the Windows firewall on that machine and block it from the network apart from communication to Sophos Central. We can scan the device, and then we can also run a live discover query, which we're going to do in just a second. Now, looking at this graph here, it is a little bit overwhelming at first, I don't deny. But what you can do is you can actually change the way it's viewed. So you can zoom in, get right in there, start to look at all the deep dive side of it, see exactly what was happening in that attack. If this is the way that your mind works and you love this stuff, you can actually move things across, click on items for more information about it as well, which it will bring up here. And then what else we can do is, if this is too much, it's way beyond your skill set, which is okay, we can just go show direct path. This will then go, right, this is exactly what happened in that attack. Windows Explorer launched this VBS script. It then tried to launch this text file and write to there, which has that uncertain reputation. From there as well, we can actually click on these artifacts, all the files, depending how you want to call them. Click on the artifacts, and you can also see the latest threat intelligence from Sophos Labs. Send it off to Sophos Labs for some threat analysis done on the SHA, see if we know any more information about that as well. So if we jump down and just move into our live discover, like I spoke about earlier, let's go back here and start from the top. So our endpoint queries today, we've got just over 100 queries out of the box. And I know it says 114, but I have added a few of my own queries in there myself to see what else I can pull out of the data. These queries aren't just related for the security teams. We can be having things about compliance, network, threat hunting, device levels. patching, services running, processes, activities, and reputation, user activities, and authentication as well. Now, with the majority of our customers and our own staff working remote these days, these are great things that we can run on the endpoint to figure out, is I'm going to pick on Joel again, and I really hope there's no Joel on the call today because they'll probably feel victimized, and I do apologize. Joel, are you connected to the VPN? Yeah, definitely, but I just can't get to the mapped drive. Well, Joel, I don't think you are connected to the VPN. No, I definitely am. We can actually either run a query to help Joel there figure out that he's not connected to the VPN through our network querying, or we can also do a simple IP config all in the command prompt window that I'm going to pull up in a second. You can see what sources, so what endpoint systems that these policies actually apply to, so be it Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. Some of them apply to all, some of them only apply to one or two of them. See overall connectivity status, DNS, firewalls enabled, all these types of fun things. Let's now run a query. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at our patches applied. So we can see here that this is going to run this pretty simple query. If you wanted to, and to start to look for explicit patches, you can actually edit this and then save it as your own. The device selector, we then choose what devices that we want to run the query on. So in this instance, I'm going to try my best and run it across these 4 endpoints. I'm then going to run the query. Everyone loves a live demo when things don't go well, but in this case, it's actually going to run for me. And we can see here, Sam and Honey Bunny and all these people's endpoints on what they've actually got, patches have been applied there. Now, the list does go on for a little bit, so we can actually export this to CSV, and then you can do your own analysis over the top of it. If we wanted to from here, let's jump onto Jules's machine. So from here, we can then jump into our live response, which I spoke about before. And then if we put in a reason, so no better reason than a Bluechip webinar. Once we start this then does directly from Sophos Central into the endpoint that we've chosen. Into the endpoint that we've chosen, and what we're going to do here is then run our command prompts. We can elevate ourselves to run from that same window into PowerShell as well, if we wanted to. It's kind of limitless from there. Everything within this window now is also logged in Sophos Central, meaning that has a full audit log like we would really come to expect. So let's do a little bit of an IP config. Jules is also having that same problem as Joel, and we can see here straight away that there's no VPN connected, right? So that would highlight straight away to the people on the help desk the problems that they're having. You can then go a little bit further. You can then start to run queries, live response, whatever you want to call it, commands in here. We can call on PowerShell. From here, we're now running PowerShell from within the same window. It becomes really powerful in what we can do. We can exit PowerShell back into command prompts. We can do a shutdown R, which install programs, start, stop services, really anything you want to do from command prompt you can. So it's pretty awesome. Now, I spoke a little bit about XDR as well, which might be a new thing that we're hearing from Sophos. And essentially, what we can do here today in our threat analysis center on the endpoints with the live discover, running those queries on the endpoints, we're going to be able to start to do that across all of the Sophos products eventually into our data lake. And that's the XDR strategy there. So today, endpoints, we can see I've got my data lake queries here. These then start to save information into Sophos Central. It's running as an early access program at the moment, which you're all more than welcome to join. If you don't know how to join early access programs, simply head up to the top where your name is in the top right corner and join the early access program for XDR. Now, eventually what we're going to do is we're also going to start to pull in telemetry from your XG firewalls and then onto the other products, and then start to run queries across those as well. So now we can start to pull data that from machines that aren't necessarily online, but we've got data in the data lake about them. We can start to look at threats across the endpoints and firewalls, start to match things up to figure out exactly where that attack came through. So if there was some command and control communication coming through to my endpoint, I'm at home today, but if I was in the office, say, then the Sophos security team might be able to put that, that's come through the Sophos firewall in the office rather than Geoff's home firewall, or vice versa. If I was at home and I got attacked, I could then start to figure out how that got through my firewall. Was there an open port? And was there a known vulnerability in my system? And kind of go from there. If there are any questions about what I'm doing right now, feel free to throw those in the question box, and I might even answer them quickly while we're just in Sophos Central before we jump out. Give everyone a minute or so. Cool. No questions, which isn't a bad thing, don't worry. So let's jump back in to the slides and let's keep going through. So we've got what I was showing you there, which is our EDR, and essentially it's the do-it-yourself version. It's having the ability to do that from either your customers themselves or yourself as the managed service provider. That's then on you to run those queries, jump in, see what's happening, take response actions. I've worked in an MSP. I know what it's like in an MSP and how hard it is to find the extra resources to be able to make that commitment to those customers to do that work. This is why I really think that the Sophos Managed Threat Response is a nice addition to an MSP's offerings for their customers, for their fully managed customers, or even their larger customers that have internal teams that they rely on you for the extra expertise. Might be something to bolster in with your additional service offerings, which is where we get our Sophos MTR. MTR is a 24/7 human-led threat hunting service. We investigate suspicious activity, not just detections, and others stop at notification, whereas we take action. And that piece there in the orange is really important, that we actually take action against what we find. We're not a log monitoring service that is going to wake you at 2 a.m. and say, hey, good morning. Things look really bad in your environment. Maybe you should wake up and have a look at the logs. Have a good night. We're actually going to work with you to neutralize those threats, and there's no additional price for that service. It is all included in our managed threat response service, which is also a key differentiator for us in the market. When we built our service offering, we really wanted to make sure that we included part of our base offering was comparable to what other services are made available in their top tier, premium, elite, whatever they call it, offering. And that starts with us with our human-led threat hunting. Most services rely exclusively or primarily on automation. Sophos MTR puts human experts at the center of every hunt, investigation, and response action. We investigate suspicious activity, not just detections. We don't just investigate known threats, we investigate the behaviors, the tactics, the techniques, and the processes that attackers engage in to evade detection and execute successful attacks. Again, these investigations are led by a team of human analysts. With our MTR service, we're not just stopping at the endpoint and the servers. We're also then able to take in telemetry from the XG firewall on your network, cloud optics in your cloud, and then coming soon is even more sources of telemetry. So today we've got our Active Directory connector, able to look into your Active Directory, take in telemetry from there, so figure out why there was 10 new domain admin accounts created overnight. Start to alert and investigate those in a deeper level. And then moving forward as well, we'll be bringing in other sources to maybe complement what is in your environment today without potentially having to replace it with a Sophos like for like. Obviously, I can't go too much into detail there. I don't want to commit to anything to anyone on the call today that we haven't put through any planning sessions, but there's definitely some work there. And if you want to find out some more information, reach out to me afterwards so we can have that kind of offline chat away from the public forum. Now, just going to put our little nerd hats on for a minute here, and let's have a look at the data collection of what the different elements in our endpoint protection bring, but also how the MTR service essentially pieces it all together. So on the right-hand side, we've got Intercept X, our endpoint protection, looking at malicious detected traffic events, ransomware, exploits, machine learning events as well. Then we've got our XG firewall, looking at persistent network threats, IPS events, all those types of things. Cloud optics, looking at anomalies. And then we've got the tools that essentially you've got today if you have an EDR that you can actually do on your own. So you can look at programs, applications, event logs, services, browser add-ons, running processes, file events, IP URL connections. The whole list is there, right? And plus there's even more that you can pull out with EDR today. Essentially, that all comes together in the middle with our MTR, with detections, searches, investigations, threat hunts, and then ultimately incident response into what's happening. What's really cool about MTR is they work very closely with our Sophos Labs team, meaning that they're actually able to pass on detections, searches, and investigations onto labs, and then make sure that any improvements to the product that is necessary from a Sophos side can be quickly added in to protect other customers. Seconds matter with managed threat response, right? And here's some key stats about our team. We've got a 24/7 team of analysts. Our average time to detect is 2 minutes. Our average time to respond is 20 minutes, and our average time to resolve is 60 minutes. Now you've got to realize these are averages, not kind of what you're going to get today. You might get a response and a resolve within 10, 15 minutes, depending on what your case is. But in terms of our lengthier cases and some of those case studies that I've shown you today, you know, some of them took 2 hours, right? So it's really about the averages there and how importantly that we actually detect and jump straight onto those attacks. Something to keep up all of your sleeves is our Sophos Rapid Response service. So for customers that don't want or don't have the ability to commit to a managed threat response service, keep our Sophos Rapid Response number handy for your team and for your customers. Essentially, it's lightning fast assistance with active threats delivered by an expert team of incident responders globally. These people sit outside of our managed threat response team that sit next to. So, you know, if we're getting lots of rapid response calls through, they're not affecting our customers that are paying for that managed threat response service on a commitment style basis. What we're going to give you with rapid response and why it's kind of a break glass solution is we'll give you remote incident response, triaging, containing, and neutralizing active threats. Combines easily deployed with our cloud-based technology, which is Intercept X with EDR, with a 24/7 team of dedicated incident response experts. We'll do a dedicated point of contact, same day of onboarding, and then we'll move into it's provided as essentially a 45-day fixed cost service, and it's priced simply on the total user and server count in the environment. We have the option of a fixed cost rapid deployment service to accelerate agent installation across your customers' estates. So those are non-Sophos customers that don't have Sophos in their environment. For Sophos customers, they would just hit the rapid response service and we would enable managed threat response in their environment. We provide continued support after the threat neutralization phase with up to 45 days of Sophos Managed Threat Response Advanced. Now, that's pretty key because the main thing about this is how great the team comes together, but essentially our goals are aligned. We want to get this cleaned up and fixed up as soon as possible, and you want this cleaned up and fixed up as soon as possible as well. That's why we do the fixed cost service up front. A lot of people have been using our services that have cyber insurance as well. So that works quite nicely with people that have cyber insurance if they do need to kind of get out of jail free card provided by them. And then the transition into MTR as well. Customers are onboarded within hours. The majority of customers are triaged in 48 hours. Now, triage is not your normal sense of triage in kind of managed services land where triaging means you've acknowledged the ticket. We're talking triages in stopping the active threat in the environment and moving into the cleanup phase. So making sure the actors are no longer active in their environment, right? Our rapid deployment, which I quickly covered, they're specialists at deploying agents as fast as possible. They're skilled at deployments when the customer environment is under their attack, and it is included in our rapid response service if it is required. The transaction will still pass through you as our Sophos partners. So if a customer calls up and calls Sophos directly and says, hey, I need some help with this, I need a rapid response service, no problems. They're told about the cost up front, they're agreeing to the cost, and then that all gets passed through yourselves and your distributor, obviously Bluechip, to make sure that you're recognized for that, and it's obviously your customer as well. The rapid response process, so essentially it's 24/7 monitoring, detection, and response. We have a kickoff call, we triage and essentially jump into the environment, we containerize and neutralization, and then we pass it off to our MTR advanced and a threat summary. With any threat, be it rapid response or a detection in managed threat response, you'll always be given a summary of either what action's been taken or what recommended action is to be taken outside of the Sophos environment as well. Sophos Central is essentially the middle piece, or the meat in the sandwich, if you will. If that analogy sits well with you, I hope it does, to what we've got offering today. It's one of the world's most trusted cloud security platforms for one very good reason. We've been around a long time, we're very good at what we do, and we're able to give you protection and visibility across your own and your customers' environments. We've got our Intercept X, our FG firewall, our cloud optics, and our managed threat response as our key products there across the top. You're able to do workload and endpoints, network security, asset discovery analysis, compliance, governance, spend optimization, data protection, SaaS email protection. We're able to click all of those boxes. It's all managed through Sophos Central, giving you unmatched protection and unmatched efficiency. Interesting stat for you all is that we see over 400,000 new unseen threats every single day. Without having machine learning on your endpoint, can you imagine keeping up, trying to constantly keep up to date with that using just signature files alone, constantly chasing your tail there essentially to make sure that you're protected. Our machine learning is able to pick up on these unseen threats, predict what they're going to do next, and stop it before an attack takes place. We've got a full team of security experts here at Sophos who will be very happy to help discuss where you're at in your security strategy, your customer's security strategy, and what would be the best approach for you and your customers as well. I hope you found this webinar insightful and informative. I would like to let you know of some next steps to enhance your knowledge even further. If you haven't done so already, you can read as well as listen to a version of our 4 key tips from incident response experts. You can also download our incident response guide. Both of these pieces of content greatly expand on everything we've covered in today's session. I recommend as well that you visit our Sophos Managed Threat Response and Rapid Response web pages, where you'll learn many of the great benefits of what I've discussed here at a higher level. These resources and even more can be found at sophos.com. Now, thanks for your time and your attention, everyone. Now I'm going to hand back to Dale, and I think, Dale, I'm going to hand back to you to kick off our quiz, is that right?
No, thanks for that, Geoff. That was great. And I can see a few questions in the lobby, so we'll get to those. But before that, we've got a quick 4-question quiz poll for you guys. On offer today is a Sophos bag. So we'll give you a little bit of time to answer each question, and then the winner will be notified later today by email or phone call. So let's get to it. Question 1. Sophos doesn't recommend, and I'll give you a hint on this, guys. There are 4 correct choices. And as promised, you should shortly receive a Uber Eats voucher in your inboxes. Okay. Question 2. How many new unseen threats do Sophos Labs teams see every day? I believe there was an issue with question 1 and the ability to only choose one. So we'll just disregard that, guys. So there's a free point there. A couple more seconds on this one. I can see you've all been paying attention. That's the majority have answered the correct one. And move on to question 3 now. So the answer to that one was 400,000. An easy true or false one here. So Sophos only have a product for endpoint protection and response.
It's nice to see most people have been listening, Dale.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a few more seconds here. That's great. And the answer to that one, obviously, is false. And just the last question. Sophos licensing can only be purchased on an annual term. True or false? Geoff, you made these questions too easy. Just a few more seconds and then so the answer to that one was false. Sophos do have the MSP program, Connect Flex. So if you're not already on it, talk to Matt and I, and we're happy to discuss the program with you and the requirements to onboard. So I guess this now, obviously, we'll let the winner know later on today on this one, and I believe your Uber Eats vouchers are now in your inbox. So we'll just move into the Q&A session. We do have a couple of questions, and then we'll let you enjoy your lunch. So I'll just have a look at the questions. Okay. So Geoff, is live discovery only available for early access?
No, it's not. Live Discover is part of our EDR product now. So thanks for your question, Sean. So yeah, you should be able to see that for any of your customers that have EDR. If you don't see it for your customers that have EDR, mate, I think you've got my details, so reach out and I'll help you out with that one.
Another question here, is it available on MSP? I believe that was. Access to price enter MSP available?
Yep, so we can get the price book sent out to you for the MSP side of it. I believe Dale, can you guys send that out, or do we need to send it out from Sophos?
No, we'll be able to send that out. So I'll send it out to you. Another one is, what is the rapid response contact details?
Yeah, I think Mr. Goodman has responded to that one for me. He sent some links through. Essentially, there's you can call the local Sophos hotline to help out with that one, and then press option 1, I believe, for rapid response. Just make sure that you do choose a rapid response so it goes across to the right team. Otherwise, you can able to get them from our website as well.
Thank you. All right. Having a look through. So can the MTR team engage directly with the MSP, and then can I pass on to the customer? Yeah,
absolutely. So if you wanted to white label the service, you can do that as well. All you need to do in Sophos Central is set the MTR contacts to be either yourself or your service desk. So then we can engage directly with yourselves instead of the customer for anything that we need to talk about. You can also choose how we engage. So we can notify you of any issues. Essentially, we'll let you know, and then also give you a full incident response plan for actions that you can take if that's something that you want to do. We can work with you in collaborate mode, so we can both kind of respond at the same time, or you can give us full authorization to go in and clean up any threats as soon as we find it.
Yeah. And what is available for customers running the Enterprise Console or on-prem?
A migration to Central probably would be the best place to start, if I'm pretty brutal about that. We can only offer our EDR, XDR, MTR to our Central customers.
All right. Thank you. And one final question here. How do you see partners taking advantage of EDR and MTR from Sophos, and what are others doing to get success?
EDR, in my view, is perfect if you have the time and the resources to threat hunt and respond. If you don't, this is where we see MTR be positioned. I talk about this solution no different to how I talk to partners and customers, as essentially you're all consumers of the service for the same reason. MTR can help your MSP grow massively at scale to offer these high touch services to your customers without kind of real any further investment from yourself as the managed service provider.
That's great. Well, I think that
we've actually got a couple more, Dale.
Final question.
So, yeah, got a couple. I'll let you go, Geoff.
Yeah, thanks. There's one from Noel here about what do we recommend to position against Darktrace. I love talking competitive displacement, Noel, so I appreciate this one. MTR Advanced would be my recommendation on what to position against Darktrace there. So we are vastly different to Darktrace in terms of how we monitor, how we respond, and how we take action. I've noticed a lot of Darktrace customers have the monitoring side, but they don't actually have the response side of it. So whereas we'll take response for that kind of fixed price upfront or on the monthly SKU. And another question's come through. So we do monitor. So with MTR, we would monitor your systems and your environments 24/7 as well.
Thanks, Geoff. I think that's no, I think that's it for questions. What we'll do now is just pass it on to Matt just to wrap it up. But thank you guys for attending today, and here's Matt Goodman.
Yeah, thanks, Dale. Thanks, Geoff. Yeah, thanks for running us through all of that. There's quite a lot there, but I think it's a really relevant thing that we need to all consider at the moment. So please enjoy your lunch that we've provided to you. Choose something tasty and delicious, and really have a good lunch on us, even though we can't meet face to face. But while you're having that lunch, have a think about what you've learned today, what you're currently doing, maybe some of the gaps that you may have. Remember, the MTR solution is, it's not something you have to turn on for every customer straight away, and it might not be every customer what they want. Everyone's going to have different appetites. So you can start with a few customers and build up to it. So it's and even build up from InterceptX to EDR to MTR. So it's all modular, and you can build on it. Also think about what's your response times to incidents. What's your family life? Do you want to have more time at home and less disasters? And probably the key takeaway for anything is what you've learned today is it's only going to be valuable if you actually implement it. So you must implement what you've learned to make it actually count. It's just knowing something isn't doing it. If you have any more questions, please send me or Dale an email, or the easy to remember inbox is sophos@bluechipit.com.au, or just call your Bluechip account manager, and we'll happily help you out with anything, pricing, demonstrations, any questions that you have. We're here to help. So please, enjoy your lunch, and we'll talk again and see you again. Hopefully, we can do some face-to-face stuff soon. So have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.